And I'm going to take you into a room where things started. You believe it?
Right after yesterday's weather.
Tony, how are you?
Santi. Good to see you. So long.
Thank you for the snow. I haven't seen snow in years. Tony was an inspiration more than a teacher. He didn't show me the f-stops or the shutter speed or what kind of lens I should use. Tony showed me more how to be a better human being.
Once this thing was put in my hands, I knew that I had to go places to record for mankind. It was a world that took us in places where the regular citizens have no idea. I saw Mussolini upside down, blood coming out of his nose. My father had 60 workers in the community of Greensburg, Pennsylvania, who kept the streets in top shape. Maintenance, clean, you know. Unfortunately, at that time, the mafia was scaring the workers to work for them for almost nothing. You see, so there was a war going on between honesty, my father, and mafia. One day he received a letter. It said, if you do not quit working for the city, we will kidnap your son. Within minutes, he told my mother, we are going right now back to Italy, in the old house where he was born. He saw that everything was going well and comes back to Pittsburgh to do the fighting hand to hand himself with the mafia. He receives news from Italy that his wife had died. He's involved with us now. He has in his hands a boy and 2 girls, gets hepatitis and dies. And I am left an orphan. His brother, Uncle Onofrio, adopts me. I was all alone in the hands of a man that kept me black and blue for 10 years. He didn't know what it was to have a child. And he beat me at every opportunity he could. In those 10 years, I was black and blue every day. I think that if I grew normally, I would be a bigger man. Nature just kind of abandoned me.
As we say in Italian, ogni male non viene per nuocere. Not all the evil comes to damage you. You know, some evil happens and then change into a positive.
When Uncle Onofrio went hunting, I never saw him aiming. It was always bang, just like that. And in a way, that's the way I wanted to take pictures. And I see this man there, and I say, God, he's not gonna hold that. I flew there to take that picture. When I arrived in America from Italy, New Rochelle High School, Mr. Lewis saw in me something that I didn't know it myself. But he was the man who put photography in my hands. What I did was to become a caddy. And when I made enough money, I went to Grand Central, got out of Grand Central, I saw a camera store. I went there and I said, I like to have a camera with which I can go close to people, take their picture and not be noticed. You know.
You had to be invisible.
You had to be invisible, literally. The man said, well, the best thing I can give you is the Argus. Argus C3, you know, small. And the first thing I did was to go to Rockefeller Center. And the first picture I took was a mock-up of Hitler standing there, and that's the first picture that I took with that Argus C3. There was no chance for me to work as a photographer in the Army, no chance whatsoever. The Army had the Signal Corps. What were they going to do with an 18-year-old photographer? However, nearby was a Major McDonald, who took a liking to me. And he really adopted me like his son. And he made me his photographer. I didn't have a darkroom, so I did my processing of film at night. Night was my darkroom. I used 4 helmets. I took the plastic away and I used just the metal as trays. I would use mine, so I needed 3 helmets in which I could develop the films. And these are the medals that the world gave Tony.
Wow. Amazing.
This one, you know who put it in my hands? Can you see who he is? General Patton.
Yes. Yeah, you did the Normandy.
And he put that medal in my hand. General Patton.
Amazing.
La Légion d'honneur.
Yeah.
This is
France,
these are from France, from Germany.
Sicily has historically been on the invasion route of world powers looking to enter Italy, and World War II was no exception. In 1943, the Allies were bombing the island in preparation for the invasion soon to come. Santi, along with other children, was sent into the countryside, out of the city, to Monte Peloritani. There, his family hid out near an abandoned aqueduct carved out of the mountainside. Whenever the planes came over, everyone hid in the shelter until the bombing subsided.
I was getting the bombs he was dropping, or his pals. I was on the receiving side.
I arrived in Paris, the only thing I could afford was a sandwich. The only thing he could afford was a sandwich. He goes to eat that sandwich in the park behind Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yes, yes.
I went to eat my sandwich behind Notre Dame.
And you met there?
I met Marcel.
Marceau.
One weekend, I went to buy the papers. And here was a stack of Business Week, and on the cover was a woman. And the title under this woman was Fleur Coles. Is she our best editor? There was everything. Tony, go to New York and go see this woman. 488 Madison Avenue, 12th floor. And as I arrived, I had to go and shit. I had to go and caca to the bathroom. So I left my book
On the desk.
on the desk, and Fleur Coles comes in to work, and she sees this book, and she sees that soldier dead in the snow. When she saw that picture, she said, "Can you do fashion photography this way?" Well, I couldn't say no. I needed a job. I said, "Of course I can do."
After I finished school in Sicily, there was no perspective for me, no work, nothing to do.
After the war, life in Sicily got much better for the Visalli family. By the 1950s, Santi was enjoying the good life. In 1956, he finished school with an accounting degree, but he really had no interest in staying in Italy and becoming an accountant. He still longed to go to America. Immigrating was virtually impossible, so he and his friends came up with an idea, a grand adventure that would get them to the United States. They purchased a war surplus Jeep and set themselves up as a Sicilian expeditionary group. They received sponsorship from Goodyear Tire and Standard Oil in the US, and in 1957, Santi and two of his friends set out on a 2-year journey around the world. As they began their trip from Sicily to Africa, it was decided that Santi would be the photojournalist, documenting their experiences.
I always loved America. Charlie Chaplin, Tom Mix. I came to America, I was penniless. I was forced to sell my Leica, my last camera I had, for $60 to a guy on McDougal Street down in the village. And I went to a travel agent to see if we could arrange for me to go back to Italy. And this guy, Bruno Simonelli, who was half a cousin of Tony Vaccaro, said, "What do you do?" And he said, "You know, I know one of the greatest photographers in the world. His name is Tony Vaccaro. I'll give you his number." I think there were some 8 numbers in your
Something like
some
that. Yeah.
8 in your phone number, because that curve with a double 8, it excited me. So I decided to call Tony Vaccaro, and the first thing he said, "Do you speak Italian?" I said, "Of course I'm Italian." And he said, "Come up." Come up. Up where? Come up. Like I should know where he was. Come up. He gives me an address. He was in a penthouse, the greatest view in Manhattan. Tony, up to 1970, he was the king of New York.
Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea.
The first thing you could hear when you enter his penthouse, blasting, was Vivaldi, Four Seasons. It was amazing. The second thing you wouldn't hear, but you could smell it, was the smell of good cuisine, a lot of garlic.
You see, now the water will go there. If that's the way to do it.
And I am very skeptical of people that don't like olives or garlic.
Oh, God.
I'm not.
Yeah. His first words were, "What do you do?" Those were Santi's first words that I heard. What do you do? How do you make it? How do you manage a penthouse?
A penthouse was beautiful.
And I said, I take photographs. And
I
that's
said,
how
I
our
want to do that.
relationship.
But do you remember what you showed me the first time? I still have it here. I can still see it.
Really?
I can, after 60 years, I can see your pictures of Egypt. You know, my knowledge of photography was put it at 500 and f11 and don't shoot in the sun. That was my knowledge with the Tri-X.
Yeah.
And then with the Mighty Light at 10 feet, you know, at 10 feet at f11 and 60th of a second.
Marvelous.
But we made it.
That's
Long
how we
way.
started.
I tell Tony I want to get married. Are you sure you want to get married? I say, yes. Right away, he said, oh, I'll take the pictures. I said, Tony, I mean, it's like having Picasso coming to your house to paint the bathroom. You know what I mean? A night before, Tony had partied all night. He comes to the wedding. He hadn't slept at all. The first thing he did, he drops a flash, and the noise, you know, churches have great acoustic. Thank God for Tri-X film. Tri-X has so much latitude. You know, you can almost shoot in the dark.
This young kid was impressed by the fact that I was busy for Look magazine, for Life magazine, and for where I was teaching at Cooper Union. They hired me as a teacher, and I became famous just like that, because once they heard that there was a school of photography that I had started, then suddenly I could hire people like Eugene Smith, the greatest photographer at that time. He had just done a Spanish village. If you look that story today, it will grab you. So here is this little kid, Tony Vaccaro, hiring Eugene Smith because I was at Cooper Union.
Yeah, I like loose signs. In the 30s, you know, all the immigrants.
The children.
The sweatshops, yes. The immigrant coming into Ellis Island, the construction of the Empire State Building.
Arthur Rothstein. He was my boss at Look magazine. He did the West, the Dust Bowl. He gave me the best reviews that I've had in my life.
Well, you have Sophia over there.
Yeah.
She must have been very, very young there.
19 years old.
19. I did her. She was about 45 or 50.
One day, very early, 9 o'clock in the morning, my bell rings. I was in the shower. I take my large towel, I put it all around, I put it around me, I open the door, and there is Sophia Loren. I said, look at you, you are beautiful, you're standing like this. Now, watch my feet. I want you to, from now on, I want you to do this. That's all. Now you are beautiful, but this, you are ugly. I told this to Sophia Loren.
She still looks great. I saw her on television the other day.
Yeah, she looks great.
She looks really great, yeah.
She has, but she's completely bald. I mean, like this.
Yeah, she wears a wig probably now.
She wears a wig, but she wears a wig painted red.
I hate that.
Not hair red.
I don't like that.
I don't like that.
I don't like that.
I'm not going to see her again.
No.
I think very clearly Tony has the better shot of Sophia Loren. I've seen all of Santi's work.
Come on now.
It's just my opinion.
What about my picture of Sophia Loren?
Well, that was 1990?
Hey, listen. He's a little older than the one your father took, but that doesn't mean he's not as good. I mean, she has aged 30 years. That's nothing, you know. I think
I was there at the right time.
Yeah.
In photography, you have to be there
Of course,
at
of
the
course.
right time. Bisogna farlo al momento giusto.
Definitivamente.
E noi con Sofia Loren l'abbiamo fatto. Noi eravamo lì, prima di tutti gli altri.
Esattamente, Tony.
Salute.
Salute.
La nostra salute.
I had two big stories that made me, kind of brought me to light. One was the Truman Capote party at the Plaza, was the party of the centuries. I didn't have a permission to photograph, but I met this a security man who was an Italian. You know, always is the Italian connection. Get into the room without the camera. The cameras were left in the kitchen. I look around and I see that Henry Ford was there, Sophia Loren was over here, and all the personality, Princess so-and-so was there. And they throw me out. I did that about 3 times with the same system, with the surface elevator, with the garbage elevator through the kitchen and back into the room.
We are special people. We're not afraid of meeting people. We know that the world is made of people. And this is basically, Santi and I, is this love that we have for mankind.
An Italian financial paper sends me to photograph David Rockefeller. Now, who am I to start a conversation about something with a David Rockefeller that he doesn't know. He knows finance, he knows art, he knows philanthropy, he knows philosophy, and yet I have to knock at his door, and I have to have enough psychology to make him relate to my camera. He sits behind the desk, and I have a very rigid person who almost looks annoyed about the intrusion of the camera in his temple. I understood that immediately. I had to do something to relax this man. And on the side, he had a nice couch, and he had a little lacquer, he had a trunk with some Chinese lacquer painting on it. And I asked him if he please could sit on the couch so that I could photograph him and have that jewel, because I knew it was a jewel. If he has it in his office, he's a priceless jewel. He would not put in his office a piece of art that he doesn't like it. So I said, Mr. Rockefeller, could you please sit there so that I could have it in the picture? And could you explain to me what it is? Immediately, he light up. And he talked for 20 minutes about his priceless Chinese piece, and I got a beautiful, relaxed picture. So you have to be not just a photographer, but you have to be a psychologist. You have to know which button to push.
You have to master them.
Yes. It's an art. It's an art.
He opened the door, and it's Kennedy. Our conversation started. He said, you know, my grandfather is Fitzgeraldo. I am Italian, half Italian. The first things he said to me, I am a Geraldo.
Fitzgeraldo, yes.
But mixed with the Irish Fitz.
Most of the people at that level, they know that they have to relate to that camera. They know they want a good picture.
When I did the book on Frank Lloyd Wright, I didn't want to pose him. He put his cane and the hat on the cane. He had long hair, maybe what I have now, you know, so I said, Mr. Wright, I used to be a barber when I started in this business. Could I give you a haircut? And he said, oh, wonderful. I always wanted a private barber.
Yeah, just a little bit, Tony. Because you know what I think about haircut, Tony?
Yes.
I'm like Sansom. With the long hair, my strength is on my hair. If you cut it too short, I don't make enough money.
Yeah.
You know?
No, just
people
here,
see,
just
people,
here.
People see me with the long hair and they pay more money. You know? So don't take it too much.
No.
Okay. You have a hair inside your hair here. I'm going to take this off.
Very good.
You know what I bought, Tony?
Yeah.
I bought a little thing that looks like a pencil, and you with the battery,
Yeah?
and you can do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a little pencil.
Yeah. The boys are having a ball here. This is when I met Anya, that eventually became my wife.
We used to go skiing together in
That's right.
Anta Mountain.
Anya came too.
Yes, yes, yes. She used to do cross country,
Yeah.
and we used to do downhill,
Yes.
and we went together to cover the Olympics.
That's right. Women to me are special because my mother was special. Everything depends on them. To go to further generation, it's not us, it's the mothers.
Tony was in Sicily shooting for Look magazine, and I hear in the news that Look is had folded and went bankrupt. So my first instinct was to call Tony and say, hey, stop working because your magazine is bankrupt.
Look went down in October, Life went down in April.
Yeah.
6 months later, I was
another
back
collapse,
again.
another collapse for Tony.
Yeah.
Do you imagine to be on top of the world and all of us
With a wife and 2 children.
with a wife and 2 children, all of a sudden he has nothing. He has nothing. He sells his penthouse, he puts the money in the market, he loses all the money. But most of it, he was depressed. And I hated that. And Tony refused to work. He absolutely refused to work. So I had to push him to work. And how I did it was that every time I get an assignment, I would call Tony and say, Tony, come with me, I'm going to shoot it. I'm trying to excite him. And at one point, Tony was so mad, he exploded. He said, oh, you take me around with you because you're insecure. You wanted me to help you. I said, Tony, I'm not insecure. I just tried to help you, but I didn't take it as an offense. I knew that he was extremely depressed.
Thank you. And this is Tony's place. This is Tony, Somerset Maugham, and this is Santi. That's Santi there. There he is.
This is the shot from the apartment, huh?
From the penthouse. Those were my roses on the penthouse.
Yeah.
Who's this? Who's this?
Hello.
Are these your grandchildren?
Yes. Hello. Hello. How are you?
Oh. And that's my son Frank, Mitch Frank, my son. Do you remember Frank?
You got me found here. I saw you put some dirt.
I couldn't get skinnier.
See you guys running around. You remember the little, what was that?
They had like the little plastic pool out on the terrace.
Oh, yeah.
4 of us would be in there splashing around, and I definitely remember playing in your guys' room, and Tony would come in like every half hour or so. You need to be quiet.
And slamming the screen doors every time the bang.
Why don't we go there just for a visit?
Of course we can go.
See it
Of
again.
course we can go.
You know what I want to do?
Yes, tell me.
I want to stay in the house open the window and hear the river go by.
It was such a romantic thing.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
So today they threw a plate against the wall and it shattered. They squeezed the entire bottle of ketchup out. They grabbed dirt from the plant again. That's all I could think of at the moment. Everything you saw at the studio was in this apartment. It was about 5 feet high. It was a danger. He was not producing prints and he was not finding negatives for about 4 or 5 years. And we always thought he would clean it up. He needed help. And we all put it together and we moved it all to the studio piece by piece.
Oh my goodness, when I was a baby.
They're beautiful. No,
No, because they were done by you, that's why.
Tashin did 2 books on me that are super. And so that was what reinvigorated me. Then my own sons became very helpful. I want to go to be aged 101 year.
Tony, don't forget to take your Leica wherever you go.
I take it
Okay.
with me, yes.
Did you get some pasta?
I take my camera to bed in case I dream something.
See,
Frank,
see you soon.
We're done here.
Gianna, I'm on
Ciao,
it.
Gianna.
I have to ask you something.
Yes.
2 pounds of spaghetti, a bottle of olive oil. Tony's gonna make caprese.
Okay.
So we need the tomato and the mozzarella to
Mozzarella.
slice, and the basil.
The garlic. You need the
garlic,
basil.
garlic, I'm gonna make pasta aglio olio with pepperoncino.
Ok, se ti do la peperoncino, ti do l'aglio e do la
Un po' di
mozzarella.
basilico.
Sì, la
Sì,
mozzarella di bufala, che quella è arrivata da Italia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, buonissimo.
That means you gotta go to bed early tonight, right, Maria? No staying
Yeah.
up late tonight.
If he doesn't come here, he doesn't get in trouble.
No 1 o'clock in the morning.
You have to kick him out, Jenna.
He comes in with all the friends and hang out.
We go home. Mentor is very, very important. All the Renaissance painters, Michelangelo and Leonardo, they all had mentors. The first thing they give you is a broom to sweep the floor. They don't give you a brush to paint. You know, you have to learn everything. You have to learn how to be a good human being. And that's what a mentor does it. And that's what Tony did it to me, and that's what I will do and I have been doing to other kids. One of the very first students that I have, the first thing I did, I gave him a pair of boots and I took him in my garden and I made him dig to plant tomatoes. And he turns around and he tells me, I come here to learn photography, not how to plant tomatoes. But I said, if you want to be a better human being, if you want to photograph tomatoes someday, you have to know where the tomato comes from. It doesn't come from a refrigerator. In other words, the more people bring you toward nature, the better you become inside. And that's what Tony taught me. He taught me Vivaldi. He exposed me to Renaissance painting. We used to go to museums together. We used to walk a lot, admiring flowers. We cooked together. And that's part of life. It's not the f-stop that counts. And I passed on to other guys. One, Brian Hamill,
Yes,
20 years,
yes.
a personal photographer for Woody Allen.
Yes,
And another guy in Rome, he only photographs the popes.
yes, yes.
This is the guy I taught him how to plant tomatoes. Boy, you're like a surgeon, Tony. Okay,
Get-
you don't want to cut the other way.
No. You
Why?
mean this way?
No, on the board.
this way.
You do that way.
Unless I use that knife. But
Yeah,
because
you
I
see
use
this?
this knife, you're
Yeah,
going to
I'm
do it.
afraid you may well cut your hands.
No, I won't
know what
cut
I
my
do?
hand. I do the same way.
Yeah, you do that?
Yes, it's the only way to do it.
I know, there's always one way to do things.
The only way to do it.
Yeah, and there's no other way.
We put the mozzarella. I don't like the tomato to be too much, you know.
The word photography comes from Greek.
Photo.
With photos, phos in Greek means light, and graphia means writing.
With
so
light.
it means writing with a light.
What is it about your sensitivity as human beings?
He approves.
Santi, what really was that you loved and I loved was the grain.
Yeah, well, of
The
course.
new system didn't have the grain.
Of course, it doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the nuances.
Yes.
Yes.
And no texture.
And no texture. When I look at the
Grain, no grain.
When I look at the back of my Kodachrome, like somebody chiseled in the film.
Yeah.
You see the emotion?
Yeah.
How thick it is?
Yeah.
It's amazing. For composition, I always look at French Impressionists. I thought they were the reporters of their times. Look at the painting. There is nothing that doesn't belong in their paintings.
When I began to go deep into photography, I suddenly am in the hands of painters. We come from the painters. So what did I do? I went into the Louvre and I said, do you have here the brushes that perhaps Cézanne used? Oh, oui, monsieur. And suddenly he brings in my hands something that last were in the hands of Cézanne. And this is why I've done a lot of these paintings, a lot of my photographs. Look at the one with the red hat there. You know who that is. When you go up there now, you will see patches, as he did one mix of cement at a time, you see. While the painting, while the cement was wet, he painted. Because when the cement is wet, the color travels deep. Because he knew that thousands of years would pass, and he wanted the thousands of years later people to see his work. We are the searchers of culture that we pass on to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that has no idea how to do it.
You know, I was shivering when I entered Hemingway's house in the Keys, and I saw his typewriter.
Yeah.
I ran for that typewriter because he had scratches all over.
Yeah.
His fingers. And I was shaking while I'm photographing Hemingway's typewriter. I went to Cézanne's studio and I see his black coat with a velveteen was worn because apparently he adjusted his coat all the time. And you almost see the person there. And you want to convey that to people that are looking. Our photography is very straight to the point. We don't embellish anything. because we have the same temperament, because we come from the same country, he's from Southern Italy.
Same level of life in it.
Same level of life. We both were poor.
Yeah.
We are accustomed to the same thing, and we tend to photograph the same thing. And you see, is a Sophia at 19 years old, and you see my Sophia at 40 years old. And everything he did it, I did it 30 years after, but not because we called each other, but because we were attracted.
Events happen.
Events happen, and we were attracted to the same people and the same things. The first thing the magazines ask you if you want to relinquish the rights to the story. They will pay you 2 or 3 times more the daily fee that they usually pay. And at the end, they have all the rights. They keep the negatives. I never wanted to relinquish the rights, even though I needed the money. But I had a wife that was working at the time, so I could say no. And I said, no, you pay me only the daily fee, and I keep the rights, because I knew that all those pictures have to stay together. Now I donated to a university where they're gonna keep together for future generations to look at it. And had I not done that, and I will relinquish my rights,
it would lost
to different magazines here and there, they will be lost. They will not have the same historical impact. 106,964 pictures. You know, you look at my stuff now, scholars, students can look at my stuff for the 60s, all the demonstration, all the anti-Vietnam, the Tony's War, the generation before. Here are the American soldiers going to Europe, freeing Europe from the Nazi. I have the children of those liberators protesting against the war in Vietnam. That's history. You know, one generation fight for defense, one generation fights against the war. It's a continuation of life and has to be recorded.
And you want mankind to survive. We really weren't friends. With Santi, I established a relationship as if we were twins. I am almost 100 years old. You and I, we clicked it so beautifully, Santi.
If we were a different sex, I think we would have made a greatest marriage in the world.
Because of what we're leaving behind, we're giving mankind so many great events that without us would not exist.